Okay. Hi, Reva. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me, Reva? It's Ellie.
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay. I'm going to turn my speaker off, though. I'm going to turn it off now so you don't hear any
Okay.
background noise.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody should do that, by the way. They should mute their microphones. Hi, Sherry.
Hello, my microphone was muted, but maybe mine shouldn't be.
Okay, well, that's between you and Reva. I'm going to mute mine. Anyway, nice to see you. I'm really looking forward to this. So, okay, signing off now.
Thanks, Ellie. Us too. We're looking forward to it.
Gonna try to take the stuff out now. Back. Oh, yeah, oh. Uh-huh. Oh, 14 participants. Yeah, it's hot. I could put this down here. Yeah, yeah. You can put everything on here. Thanks. Just
If
move this.
everybody could
Go ahead.
please mute themselves. Thank you. Thank you. That would be helpful. Okay, we're going to give it 2 more minutes. Everyone to come on.
Oh, it's close. Judy, you need close. Okay.
Sorry, I'm cringing already.
But it's her, she knows she's saying the names.
Okay. I'm going to start. And hopefully people will join in. This is being recorded. So if anybody, just to let you know, if anybody misses it or you want to share it, we'll be able to share the recording. I want to welcome everybody tonight. We are very excited. I am Reva Judas, the founder and executive director of Nechama Comfort. Nechama Comfort is a global organization that helps the entire Jewish community, all the families who are experiencing pregnancy and infant loss, early miscarriage, stillbirth, SIDS, medical terminations, and toddler death. We are an organization, we offer virtual individual counseling as well as virtual support groups. We are here to help the entire family. We also do trainings to medical personnel, funeral homes, clergy, and communities at large. And for more information, all of us will put our information in the chat, how you can reach out to us. Tonight, we are having this wonderful program because October is Pregnancy Infant Loss Awareness Month, and we know it is November, but because of the Jewish holidays, we are extending it a little bit. And I am so excited to welcome my guests, Chari, Pere, and Abbi, Sophia. Both of them are friends. Both of them are helping in this community of families and communities going through this difficult trauma. Tonight, we are going to hear from both of them. We are going to have the world premiere, the second time where Nechama Comfort is privileged to host Chari Pere's wonderful cartoon mentory, which we'll find out what that is. And tonight we are going to see the premiere of Determination. Abbi Sophia, who is a dear friend, a renowned worldwide photographer, and I could say that because her photos are featured on the Nechama Comfort website of our case managers. She is a professional photographer. She's a social worker based in Teaneck, New Jersey, known for capturing meaningful life moments from weddings and bar mitzvahs to family portraits, commercial work. She has a background in English, art history, and an LMSW degree. Wow. Abbi brings a unique blend of empathy and artistry to her photography. She founded her business in 2015, and her warm, genuine approach helps clients feel seen and celebrated. In addition, as we have seen over the past couple of years especially, through her creative work, Abbi is passionate advocate for Israel and the Jewish community. And I want to just thank you for all of that you've done since October 7th and continue to do for the entire community. Chari, Pere, has worked as a creative director and illustrator, storyboard artist on projects for Red Bull, Jockey, Disney, Comedy Central, and Bud Light. She has created content for the Washington Post, the Lily and Man magazine, and has collaborated with the New York Times bestselling author Gretchen Rubin and actress Mayim Bialik. Chari launched the Unspoken cartoon series as part of the 2024 Jewish Writers Initiative Digital Storytellers Lab Fellowship and was named the 2024 Jewish CE Artist of the Year. So welcome, my colleagues and fellow Teaneckers and friends, dear friends. Chari, I want to start with you because I'm sure there are people going and saying to themselves, what is a cartoonmentary? So welcome, and if you could share a little bit about what that is and a little bit about how you got into it, we would love to hear it.
Absolutely. And thank you again, Reva, for hosting this. It's wonderful to see all of you here for this online debut. I personally think this is the most impactful one that we've produced yet. So I'm a cartoonist. I have a background. I went to Shiva for 12 years, and then I went to the School of Visual Arts where I graduated with a BFA in cartooning. I got the bug in college to use my cartoon powers for good when I was offered a job to do a coloring book for kids with diabetes. I was since commissioned to do comics about for Chabad, for the OU, for different topics about abusive relationships. And I really loved the impact and the help that I was able to use and really make a transformation in people's lives with my content done in a way that's not, I have a background in humor. I'd interned in Mad Magazine in college. I do a lot of coloring books and really kid-friendly stuff, but getting to do meaningful content was something that really spoke to me. So when I had a miscarriage in 2014, I looked online. It was very traumatic. My story was featured. It was the first comic that I did. It was featured in my first video. But I couldn't find any material that or any story online at the time. Nobody were talking about it. I was alone. My husband was out of town. And I was searching online for anybody's story that was similar to mine that would let me know that things would be okay, that they had a decent ending or some kind of hope for the future. So I knew that I really wanted to use my cartoon skills to tell my story in a way to help others. So I had to wait a few years until I was in the right mindset. I felt like in a good place that I could look back. So I created a comic about my story called Miscarried. And Maya Bialik was kind enough to share it. And she shared it on all of her social media posts. It went viral. This happened on a Tuesday, right after Mother's Day. I published it right in between right I think it was on the anniversary of my personal miscarriage, which was very meaningful to me. And I couldn't believe how far it went. People from all over the world were sending me emails, and I got invited to speak in London and Atlanta and different locations. And it was really incredible. And I told my husband, I really should consider doing a story from a male perspective, because as little as women talk about their experiences, men don't at all. And I had gotten an email an hour later from a fan saying, you should really consider telling a story from a husband's perspective about a miscarriage, because my husband really struggled. So after that, I started telling other people's stories. So I told Michael's miscarriage about Michael, the fan who reached out to me. And then I have the diagnosis about a Down syndrome diagnosis. And then I was looking for my next story, and I happened to meet Abbi at a photo shoot for 10 years ago for my father-in-law's birthday. And she and I were actually due around the same time as her story happened, and I was following her story closely. So I reached out to her. So it started like 2019 was when we first started working on this. So, I can pass it over to Abbi. We can talk about that a little later.
Thank you so much. Yeah, everybody should really, after tonight, just go back and look at all of what Chari has done, and it's so important. And I, thank you for sharing your story. Abbi, would you like to just share your story a little bit with us?
Yeah. So actually, I was thinking about it. I was like, just now, I'm like, oh, you're gonna see my story.
We're gonna see your story, but just a little bit about a little bit about your background and how.
So I before what you're about to watch, I have been trying to get pregnant for a long time, and I did IVF, and so I have a first child from IVF, and I, even throughout this whole fertility journey, I knew Reva, and I knew about, all the work that she does and all these different hard things in life, but you still never think, okay, this is going to happen to me, even with whatever, going through IVF and everything, and then my what you're about to see, and I went through this hard thing, and it was just so foreign to me that I remember I was like, okay, I have to talk about it. And I started slowly talking about it, and I just felt so much support and so much relief. And it was such like a, going through the trauma of it all. And I just felt so lucky that like I even knew Reva and knew Chari, and to be able to just open up to people and just sharing in my story, it really helped me. But then once I started sharing also, I found other people looking for support in the same way, because anything you go through, like even though we all know about IVF, or we know about infant loss, or like when it happens to you, it's like, wait a second, like how to support other people, but how do you find support for yourself? It's just always, you wake up every day and there's something new, and there's always someone there. We have to remember that we're not alone. So thank you for the opportunity to tell my story, and Reva, thanks for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Abbi. So it is amazing, and I think we're all ready to see the film. We're going to have time for more discussion, more questions. If you want to put questions in the chat, you can do that as well. We will have time after the film. How long is the film?
It's about 6 minutes.
It's about 6 minutes. Yeah. So that's perfect. You don't have to run and get any snacks. We're good. Okay. So without further ado, it's the premiere of Determination.
All right. I'm about to screen share, and I have to remember to share sound. That is always the thing to remember. All right. So here we go. Let me make this full screen. Can everybody see this okay? Well, I was gonna say give me a thumbs up, but I don't think that I can see thumbs. Reva and Abby, I can see your thumbs.
Yeah, we're good.
You're good? Okay. All right. Here we go. 1 second. Why is it annotating? Don't want to annotate. Okay, I'm gonna have to start it before I full screen it because Zoom is making me take notes over it, and I don't want to take notes. Okay, so let me try this again. 1 second. I'm gonna have to hit play and then screen.
I grew up a twin. I always pictured having a large family. Instead, I photograph other people's big families. Say cheese! So here I am, IVF, again.
Ready?
I just hope it works. My husband and I couldn't get pregnant naturally. It took 4 embryos to have our first child, Eliav. This was IVF attempt number 4, using embryos 7 and 8.
You hit the IVF jackpot. Twins!
I was expecting twin girls. My dream. I couldn't wait to tell my twin sister in LA. Can you believe it? Twin girls, just like us. I went to my next doctor's appointment expecting the usual. So how do they look?
Baby A looks great, and baby B?
What do you mean by
It looks as though baby B may have neural tube defects. Your life and baby A's life are at risk. Even if the fetus survives, your baby will likely never walk or go to the bathroom on her own. The baby may die naturally, or you could choose to abort.
Please make it a mistake. Did I somehow cause this? Terminate. I have to have an abortion? Will this save baby A's life? And mine too? I desperately searched for others who had gone through the same experience. I had to abort one of my twin fetuses because I could not carry multiples.
I had to reduce from triplets to a singleton. My life was at stake.
I had IVF and was carrying 8 embryos. I reduced that number immediately.
Time was of the essence. We had to make a decision.
We don't really have an option.
Yeah, we have to abort baby B. Next step, time for the reduction.
The procedure does not come without risk to the pregnancy, but you're lucky the babies are not sharing the same sac.
What's going to happen to baby B?
Baby B will stay inside and decompose over time.
Goodbye. We watched her go on Valentine's Day. What a day to lose our heart.
Baby B is gone. She's at peace.
Socks and dark shoes. Oh, of course.
How could this happen? Why? I went back for a checkup at 31 weeks.
Everything looks great.
I thought that I could relax and enjoy the rest of the pregnancy. But that wasn't the end. Oh my God!
You have a blood clot or placental abruption. I'm admitting you immediately.
My family and friends were incredibly supportive.
I brought you hot soup.
Hair and nails are done.
Your computer is all set up to edit photos. Food delivery!
I was finally discharged with major modifications and monitoring.
Up, Mommy, up!
I wish I could pick you up, love. After about a month, I started telling people what happened.
Are you okay talking about this?
The more I talk about it, the better I feel. Finally, at 39 weeks, I had my scheduled C-section. It was all worth it. I am grateful for science and the right to choose. Without those things, my children would just be a dream. I also really appreciate that in Judaism, the value of my life is taken into consideration. Many texts reinforce that I made the correct decision, that up until a baby is born, I get to choose what's best for the health of my family.
When a woman is experiencing difficulty giving birth and is in mortal danger, until it has gone out into the world, it is not considered a soul, and so it is possible to terminate it and save the mother.
It's scary to share my story, but if it helps someone else, like you or your friends and family, then it's absolutely worth it.
Hold still, everyone.
Say cheese! Though we never fully move on, we find a way to make it through. The pain we feel allows us to forge deeper bonds, and by sharing our experiences, we can grow from it together.
That's it.
We all give a standing ovation to Chari and to Abby Sophia. Wow, I'm speechless. Abby, I know your story. We've been there together through your story, but seeing it again, it really. I want to just thank you for sharing and for allowing you to really know that you're helping so many. We have some people on tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And this is going to be seen. And Chari, also for what you've done. We always say if we help one person, but I know this is going to help so many people. The stigma is still there, even in 2025. And even though we feel that people are speaking so much about things, I think that this will help open a conversation and will help people to understand. And you really touch upon so many communities, the community of people having to go through a fertility journey, having to go through loss, having to go through being part of a community. And it's not necessarily the communities that we live in. We speak to people from all areas of the world. And it's really anybody that wants to have a family and that, we're raised that everything's going to be fine. Everything will happen the way we want it to happen. And we all know, I'm sure everybody on here tonight, things don't go as planned. And I think that this really, really helps so many people. I want to know, Chari or Abby, if you wanted to share, and I wanted to see if anybody open it up to anybody. You could write things in the chat. You can private message me on the chat if you have any questions or sharing any thoughts or ideas.
Yeah, well, I know that you'd asked earlier how Abby and I connected on this story. So, I always am keeping on a lookout for new stories and new topics to tackle, especially with people. It's easier with people I know. And Abby was so open. So, we had babies 3 days apart with this story, my third and her second. And I could not believe how open she was during her entire journey. I was in total awe and in suspense of what was going to happen. And I reached out to her about, hey, Abby, I see you're very open. Would you like to collaborate? And she said, sure. And we were supposed to start working on it in 2019. But then I was postpartum depression after my third child. And then I started feeling better. And then a little pandemic happened and kind of pushed the project along. Then I got a fellowship from the Jewish Writers Initiative Digital Storytellers Lab. I think they're the Jewish Writers Institute now. They supported turning my comics into animated shorts. So I finished the comic with Abby last year on October 5th, which is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. And a year later, we're doing the film, and it's been in film festivals. But really, it's just I have a question for you, Abby. Did you know anybody else who had gone through anything like your story? Because when I had my miscarriage, I knew two people. Two people had opened up to me, and I reached out to those two people. And after I started talking, I heard my mom had a miscarriage. My grandmother had a miscarriage. Everybody had a miscarriage. Everybody had a miscarriage after that. But did you know anybody?
I haven't known anyone with like exactly my story, but I did know, like, even it was true what you wrote in like in your comic. There was like one person I knew that, had like was pregnant with like 8 embryos. Like they used to, when you did IVF years and years ago, they would put a lot of embryos in. And so sometimes they all worked, and then they would have to like right away reduce those. But and then I think a few people when I shared, like, reached out that they had like there was like different versions of it. So like one person had 3 healthy, so quote unquote, babies, but they were hurting the mom. So like she had to make a choice of to like terminate, like, want, like, and it was such a hard thing to live with. If you want like so many, you do IVF, or you are trying to get pregnant, and you get pregnant, and then you're like, okay, wait, I can't keep one of them. And like when I went through this also, I was like, the cartoon mentary only, there's some parts that we had to like skip over, but it was also like, are you sure? Are the doctors right? Are you sure? Am I making the right choice? Like, even though it was like, it wasn't a choice, but it was a choice. And then they like phrase it to you in a weird way. They're like, it doesn't come without its difficulties if you decide to do this. And you're like, wait, but you told me, like, it's the best thing to do. So definitely, I mean, I haven't really known. I have been people who reach out to me with similar situations of having a reduction, which I had no idea what that was until this happened. But yeah, it was like a wild ride. And it was so traumatic. Also, like, how can you mourn the loss of one baby while celebrating or having hope for the other baby that I still carried? I remember thinking like, oh, I just want to start over. Like, for sure, like my amazing daughter that I have now, like I was like, for sure she's doomed, because like she has to now I have to be pregnant with both of these fetuses. And I was just like, all these thoughts go through your head. But also, I want to say we did watch this on the big screen at the Soho Film Festival. And it was like, what? It was so emotional. I was like crying. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It was like there's all these other films. It was kind of crazy. But
Goodness.
it
Yeah,
was
it was at Soho International Film Festival on the big screen in one of the theaters I used to frequent when I was in college. And that was wild, being in the movie theater.
What was the reaction in the audience or at the film festival, or when you got the grant to do this? Were people, surprised? Was it familiar to people?
a lot of people said, I mean, people didn't really tell. Afterwards, they came up to us, oh, I could relate, or I went through this, or it was such a nice break because it was other different films. It was like such a nice like mixture of styles. It was
Compared to some of the other films, ours is simply lighthearted.
Yeah, it was insane. But
I can imagine.
But people were like, wow, I could really relate. Like they were coming up to us. So
I think, people will ask me, do you find that you're having more clients? That's the usual question. The truth is the statistics are the same. 1 out of 4 pregnancies end in a miscarriage. 1 in 8 pregnancies will be stillbirth. 1 out of 4 out of the 1 in 8 stillbirths, we still don't have a reason why it's happening. Medical termination, as we are calling it now. When Abby, you first shared the story, I think it was even a little different than it is actually today. Today, there is an increase with medical termination because doctors are able to really pinpoint so much of what's going to happen to the babies. And your story is an example of that. And I'm so glad, Chari, that you brought out about what we have in Judaism. And I will tell you, we work with all levels of observance of communities. And it really is that the rabbis do take into consideration so many factors, both physical, the mother, the baby, the child, the family dynamics, It's not a black and white answer. And when couples call me, many times now, more than before, they have already spoken to their rabbi for advice. So we are getting that. And I think it's not necessarily that it's increased. I think that people are just know where to go, and people can talk about it. And just for 1 second, and tomorrow is election day. When we're filming it today, whenever you're going to see this, and we're definitely not going to talk about politics here, absolutely not. But just to inform everybody that when it comes to termination, in Judaism and in our community of pregnancy and infant loss and infertility, it is really important for people to understand that we as couples, when they make the decision to terminate, and when they have gone through all of their journey with their doctors and their rabbis and their families, that to have to deal with it in another sensitive way, where to have the procedure done really adds extra layer of grief in their journey. So that is just something, that we talk about, and we help the families. And it's, when we run our support groups, it's really a combination of families who have lost a child in miscarriage, stillbirth, termination, but it's really their child that lives in their hopes and dreams. And I think that's what people should understand. And bringing up infertility, Abby, it's those times when you have to go through all the choices and the times that it may not work, and that's also a loss. And I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. Anybody, please feel free to share your information. Abby, I just want to just remind everybody and to thank you. I remember your post Hanukkah time when you posted do you want to share with you what the post was?
I'm sure it was like a menorah with vials for the IVF, and it was like my secret menorah, because menorahs we put in the windows, and this is like kind of like our, like, I mean, you could put it in the window with all your needles, but it's more like, we all have our personal struggles. And for me, it was, I mean, I wasn't so secret about it, but still there's so much else in everyone's lives that we keep secret, and it's our own struggle, and we can all draw strength from it. But yeah, I think also another thing I was thinking about when you were talking is that when they first told me that one of my babies was sick, right away I was like blaming myself. I picked something up. Like I was like, I didn't. Neural tube defect is really from defect is in spina bifida. It's from not having enough folic acid, but a lot of research has shown now that sometimes when you do IVF, the babies, like everything gets mutated. So like, you just start to blame yourself, what you ate, what you did, what you didn't do. And that was like a really big struggle for me. So I know, like.
Absolutely. And that's why I do this series, because, you can't take away the physical pain and the physical reality of things. But if I knew that practically everybody I knew had some kind of issue going on with their pregnancy, more than not, then I would have at least stopped blaming myself. And one thing, when I was drawing your comic, Abby, I didn't realize that I knew that when I had my miscarriage, the fetus that I had was missing a brain, and I was drawing the same thing for like your baby had similar things to what I had. And I didn't have to make any decisions. I was, the only thing more terrifying than worrying about making the decision is not having the choice. Like I didn't want to do it at all, but I had a baby that had no brain in my body. And, it was very terrifying. And if other people had just told me like, hey, I had this going on too, and it's like, I'm on the other side, it would have made a world of a difference, and I would not have blamed myself as much as I did.
What I find also, after having programs, articles, people hear about us, is it's amazing how many women or even men will come to us that didn't have an opportunity to share their situation and their journeys and their losses. 30, 40, 50 years ago. And they will come and they will reach out to us. And perhaps the two of you have had that experience to say, this is, we lost a baby 40 years ago. And we were told we couldn't find out where the baby was buried. We couldn't go home and discuss it. And this also, I think, helps couples, give them the opportunity to share their stories now and to open up. And I know families that have really spoken to their older children to explain to them what they've gone through early on in their family journey. I was wondering, Abby, if your children know what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I told my daughter, I don't know why it came up, but she sometimes talks about her twin, that she like misses her, and she tells people she was a twin. And my kids, well, I had told my son that I was having twins. I mean, he was so little at the time, he kind of didn't really, wasn't even 3 yet, but he later on I was like, oh, like, I changed the story and he didn't really realize. But for me also, when I was pregnant, by the way, I was huge and I looked like I was having twins or triplets. And people constantly were asking me if I was having twins or triplets. And I would be like, no. And like, they're like, are you sure? I'm like, no, yes, I'm sure. And then eventually I would be like, yeah, I terminated one of them. Like, I would just tell them. And then I'll be like, that will teach you that, like, the appropriate things to ask. But like in my pictures of when I was pregnant, I just look huge. And so, yeah, my kids know, and they know about that they were IVF. And also I have like Baruch Hashem, a 4th kid that wasn't IVF, so we she was a little surprised. But that was in the comic also. But yeah, so my kids know about it, and honestly, it's a lot easier to explain how babies are made when you have IVF, so they all know. But yeah, that's my story.
There was so much content. Some of it was in the comic, some of it. So the film is about half the size of the comic.
Mm-hmm.
And the comic didn't have, I have to look back at it. But there were so much more of like what to say, what not to say. There were whole sections that were taken out because when you're telling a comic and you're telling an animated short, like you're trying to keep the audience's attention and get the basic points across. So we had to be very harsh and very, there's so many important things that were taken out. Because really the important thing is that you're not alone. And so we had to move the story along. So certain things that were helpful were not told because of the interest in time. It's already almost 6 minutes. There was a budget on how to make the film. But I'm glad you brought that up, Abby, because that was definitely something that resonated with me, that it was hard not to include that in the film because it's so important to understand like what not to say. A lot of what I do with these series, with these comics and with the animated shorts is to help people, not just those going through it, but those to support those going through it so that there's empathy. And really, when you put something in a cartoon instead of a physical person there, an actor or the actual documentary of the person, it's an iconic character simply drawn that you feel, and she's talking from her head, you are absorbing it. It could be you there. It could be you as her. She's done very simply enough that it looks like, she could look like a lot of people. So the whole point is to put you in the driver's seat in Abby's head and try to understand fully what's going on with it.
I agree. And for more information on do's and don'ts, you could go to the Nechama Comfort website and reach out to us too, because that's so important. I'm not, first and foremost is the family going through it, but also how do we react? And just a couple of points that I always try to share when I'm doing a presentation. When you meet somebody new, don't say, are you married? Don't say, how many children do you have? Don't assume. Just introduce yourself and say, I always like to say, where did you grow up? We always do geography, right? Jewish geography. Everybody had to grow up someplace. That's a given. Maybe if you, and from a conversation, you could sort of get where the people are at. Or, tell me something. Remember your old, youth group days or when you went to camp, icebreakers. Tell me something that may surprise me about you. And if you don't get any more information about them, then that's all. That's all they want to say, because we have to really respect boundaries, and we really can't assume people, and just continue the conversation. And if you know about somebody's loss, go up to them and just say, "I'm sorry." Simple words. Don't get into details. Don't ask questions. Let it, take it from there, from what they should do. And we know everybody comes from a meaningful place, but it's really amazing. And people going through these journeys can always refer to now Sherry's cartoonmentaries for them to look at. Now it's so simple. We can send them a link and tell them to watch it to see how we feel.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you mentioned that last month was Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And, it happens year round, and you don't know years later. Also, I had friends who reached out to me years after my first comic appeared and thanking me, because then they had their miscarriage and they went straight to the comic because they knew it was there for them. So, unfortunately, it's something that is ongoing, and hopefully with continued dialogue, we can support each other and just be there for each other.
And I think, Abby, also to your point, to be honest with your family, with your children, on their level is so important. And I think, we have a lot of tools to share how to do that. And there is no stigma to this. And yes, in the world today, we see entertainers and athletes all talking about their fertility journeys. And I think we just need to respect each other and to be there for each other. And
Absolutely.
that's important. Anybody else have any comments that you want to share? We put, I see some great comments coming on, that we could speak openly. Thank you. That we can really have a place to share information. So if you go to the Nechama Comfort website, we will have a link for the documentary. There will be a recording of this program. Chari put in, you put the link in also, and we'll send that out too. And they could go to your website to watch the I keep saying documentary, cartoonmentary, which I love that word. Abby, can people reach out to you too? I know Abby is.
Yeah, you can ask. I know, like, if you want to ask any questions, if you know anyone, they could refer. Over the years, people have texted me, "Can I send my friend to talk to you?" and stuff like that, like making these kind of choices. Yeah. On my Instagram, email.
I really want to thank Chari tonight. If you have any last words you want to share with us, it's another wonderful film that you've produced. If you haven't seen the other films that she's done, please go to her website. I thank you from this community for all the work that you're doing, and I know continue doing. I look forward to working together and for you for helping everybody.
Yeah, thank you for hosting. I want to give a shout out, Chari Ben Simon.
Yes.
That's an excellent, really, your comment is resonating about the comic gives couples permission to speak openly about pain. So many people, when I put out Michael's miscarriage, sent me a message. It never even occurred to me to ask my husband how he was doing through any of this. And that's the whole point. The whole point is, and I think, Abby, we've talked about this. I've definitely talked about this with some of my other subjects, but when you share your story, it's not inside of you anymore. I'm a big believer in that. If something bad happens to you, it happens, I hate to say for a reason, but I think it's what you do with it that really gives you the power to turn it into something better. So something bad, I've always been very open in my life with things, because if I went through something bad, why am I keeping it in? If I can, let someone else know and share my situation and my insights, that it'll help them. That's what the whole point of it is. So I'm really a big believer. If something happens, just turn it into some kind of art, and it helped me heal. I feel like I'm not carrying around all this pain like I had. And certainly the subject of Michael's miscarriage has shared that with me. It just feels good to be able to do something to help others. I mean, that's what Judaism is about, right? It's about trying to use what we can to bring light into the world. So, you know, I'm thankful to have the opportunity and to work with people like Abbi to do that.
Yes. And thank you, Abbi, so much for always being there. And for sharing your stories, your photos. It's really so important. And if anybody, you know, reach out, Nechama Comfort, we have our case managers. Some of them are on here tonight. I also use Sherry Ben Simone, who is the director of Gutterman and Music Can Funeral Home in Hackensack, New Jersey, has really helped Nechama Comfort to help us with burials, being able to find a spot at the cemetery, and working with many other funeral homes across the world to really give these couples the choices. It's really what we learned tonight were the choices, and that we need to respect everybody and to be there. So we are all here to help the communities, to help the families, and to bring awareness. So thank you all for joining tonight. Mwah, mwah. That's all I could do is send my love. So thank you all.
Thank you.